All right, so here's my review for today, Thursday, January 8th. And let's start with that trade on crude oil early in the morning, which I botched. I really, it was, I mean, I was, um, I missed this trade, which would have been the trade that I would have automatically gone for because I woke up late, basically. I wasn't ready to trade. So, um, but basically, we have this sort of downtrend here, and it kind of, if we zoom in here, I'm not sure if we get like a significant, I guess we do, not just one significant volume candle, which we kind of did. I mean, but it was just overall volume here, how it really kicked in. You can see it here. This was trading with minimal volume on the way down. And then we get, this flush here. This was like momentum here into 56, basically. And we get some volume. And then the volume is like increased, and then it flushes again here below, literally just one or two, maybe 3 points below 56, and gets soaked up again. And goes up, basically up. Um, up against that trend line, I guess. But even if you're there and you're seeing that increase in volume when it's coming down into 56, you probably don't even have to wait until this thing goes up and tests the trend line, which is like 20 points above. It's already looking like this is a bottom, especially because it's against that, 56 whole number. So, but in any event, if you don't, because if you don't catch that, at least this is information. This is information that even if you're not trading this because you're waiting for a break of the trend line, or you want to wait for the VWAP reclaim, which is all these things within my system, that's what I would have waited for. It's not necessarily correct because I should be looking for a way of, trading, getting in earlier if I'm getting the signals on the tape and the volume, but that's another issue aside. But at least you're taking in this information, and this increase in volume here is letting you know that this thing is pretty much ready to break trend here. And when it does break out of that trend line and it puts in this momentum candle up above VWAP, it does retrace, but then comes back up. Combination of those things is basically telling you that this thing is ready to break trend, especially after reclaiming VWAP, and then we may get a move upwards. Um, and because yesterday we were trading it, I was trading it, whatever, um, and the key level was this volume point of control in the 30s, which was in place from this day. It was actually a little bit in the low 30s. If I go to like a 5 minute, um, chart, you see that sticking out here like really hard, right? This level here. So we had 56 down here, and then we had even before, like let's say before today, and we have it sticking out here at like 537, 536, that area. So the mid 530s, and that was a key level yesterday. Or the day before yesterday, whatever. I can't remember when we were trading this, and somebody had an algo that captured the same trade, whatever. Um, so that was a key level, and I had it there in my head. So then today, if we are, trending down, and it was a key level even after the pre-market trades, like it still stayed, you know, during the day here, it's still kind of like that area remained. Look at here, 30 and 30, between 30 and 35, it remained an important area with the edge, with the upper, I guess the upper part of that range there, closer to the 5650. So anyways, it fails and it trends down. When it breaks trend, reclaims VWAP, and then it's giving us, let's go now to the 5-second chart, and then it's giving us that bit of structure there, here, after the VWAP reclaim with, lower highs and a trend line to be right below, right there. So it kind of goes into the 30s and then creates some structure there and a trend line that can be broken. That's kind of like, it's already above VWAP. VWAP was in a downtrend and kind of flattening, and then it starts tilting up while this is happening. And we've seen the increase in volume um, here. So that kind of like, this would have been my trade, right? The very safe, the safest, um, highest probability trade would have been just that push into the 50, into 5650, and that's it. Um, because that would have been the easy trade, and where the momentum push into the half number 5650, the obvious target area, and that would have been the easy trade, and I missed that trade. So then what ends up happening is that it pulls back here, and then I get involved here. I get an entry. Actually, I should have probably looked for an entry down here, but this trend line wasn't there yet, and the tape, this thing was so thin and slow that you couldn't, it wasn't readable here. You couldn't tell that this was going to be the bottom or not. So I end up like buying when it takes out the 50s, and I end up buying off of 50, but not a very good entry. I buy like a 53 or 50, something like that, maybe 54. So I probably bought somewhere around here. And then my target was, I have this orange here, or this orange line here at around 66 or 67, because if you go back, if you look at, we touched it here, we touched the low 60s, low to mid 60s, so 66, 65. We touched it here also. So there's a reason why I had that orange line there. I didn't know I had it, but it's sort of like that low to mid 60s seems to be like a level here that it's traded off of a few times. It's not like a volume thing or anything. It seems to be more like an edge of a little low volume touch that it's been happening. So I was fixated on that, and I was like, and I had not a great entry, but I had an entry somewhere in the mid 50s, and I was like, okay, let's try to capture that move up into the 60s. And this thing was so slow and so thin, and so the tape was barely moving, and it really tested my patience. And it was right there. It was right there. It took forever here. It was right here in like 50, this area, went up to 58, 59, then pulled back again into my entry, and then kind of like, this is a 1 minute chart, so it spent there between 526 and let's say 542, so like 20 minutes here, right? Just basically grinding up to see if it's actually going to give me a pop into the 60s. And I went through all that pain. And in the end, I literally, I was like, what am I doing? I missed the trade that I wanted to take, and I took it off. And the second I took it off, bam, it popped it into the 60s. So that's a trade that I botched. When I took it out, I took it off for just like a nothing. Um, and then it pulled back and it stayed here, and I should have gotten back in here, and I didn't. And then this was just like oh, and by the way, when they this pop, then we get this volume exhaustion here. And I thought, oh, and now I remember. Now I know why I didn't get in, because I shorted. So then I got short because I thought I'm going to fade this volume exhaustion here. And this thing, so I had a good entry. I probably entered here on this double top again. I had like 67 or something like that, and I was betting on this trend line, on this thing breaking below trend, not thinking that there was a very strong possibility that it can go up and make what ended up happening, which is a move to test the 57 area, because this was, break of trend here, VWAP reclaiming here the 5650s. Basically, the 5650 is staying above that level, and I don't know. I should have imagined that this could have made that move up into the and test it. It's fallen short of making complete moves in the past 2 days. I think that put me off a little bit, but also there have been developments in the whole Iran thing is kind of cooking up, and the tankers thing, and like, it's we're back in expectations, in like expectation mode, about what can happen here. So maybe that what I should have thought, that was something that could have pushed this up. And we see now proof, by the way, that that's actually what happened. Look at this, is actually rallying, right? So it took out 57 area, and now it's testing now 57.50. So it's on its way. So this was sort of like I dropped the ball on this one, basically. And yes, it's okay. I try to fade this volume candle here, and I thought it's a short here, but when it didn't break below trend here, I should have flipped long and expected this to happen, and try to position myself for this. But instead, I kept trying for a short, and I kept thinking that this thing is about to crack, and it's about to crack, and that trend line was not about to crack, and probably a lot of people were thinking like me as well. So all this volume that traded here ended up being trapped, and it's what caused this pop here. Because they capitulated, including myself, and this thing, bam, popped up into here into the 90s. And then after it did that, I thought, okay, the 90s is close enough to 57, and maybe that's all it has in it. And then I was waiting for this to give us to finally, after this exhaustion, which is a real exhaustion, I thought, okay, after this exhaustion, it's gonna break below trend, and then we're gonna get our short trade. And well, it started trading outside of the range, and it didn't. And I thought it would have, it was testing highs again here, and well, it ended up squeezing. So, and I didn't capture any of that, and I ended up not losing much, but losing on a trade where I had a good thesis, about it. So, and now we have this thing, went back, didn't even come down to the 5650s. We have you up in an uptrend. This thing is rallying. This is a trade where I should have been in, I guess. And oil is like the commodities. It's like you put on a position and you let it go if there's fundamental reasons for this to rally, and there are, and I'm not in it, and that's it. So, lesson here, and perhaps the reason. I mean, here it was just me, not, I don't know, kind of like, not giving enough weight to the fundamental, um, variable behind a thesis and why this could go up. So that was my fault here. But having missed this trade, and having a potential entry, like build a core, leave a core on a potential entry, that it could have captured this whole thing, being in it from very early, that I attribute it to the fact that I did not wake up early, and that means it's not a trading thing. It is a life, time management and life thing. Whereas, if I cannot, because I woke up late, and that means that the sun was out, and I have to go out and get some sun. So I wasn't completely focused, and I was like, there was a couple of moments here where I just put on a stop order, and then left the room because I had to eat, and I had to. So it just, um, if I had just woken up early, gone outside, gotten the sun that I need, exercise, work out, whatever, go buy the groceries, come back, and then sit at my desk and then be there. Everything else is taken care of, and now I'm free to be here and really focus and be at the desk. I probably would have managed this a lot differently, and I would have maybe captured this trade well, including the first part of the trade. And that's the thing that's bothering me right now. The reason and this happens quite often where I underperform or I um, you know, ruin a trade where I would have done pretty well because of that, because of not being entirely focused, because I'm letting outside distractions and I'm not managing my time well, all that stuff. So, anyways, that's the trade with oil, and then NQ, and I guess I'm kind of proud of this one. Um, so what I saw here, this was an opening drive trade, and I did put it in the Discord before we were at the open. I saw this as basically we had a consolidate a range here. The top of the range was set by this pop here, and I can't remember why that pop happened. We did get a piece of news here related to, I can't even remember, China again, something. I can't remember what it was. And it flushed and it immediately got back up and went back up in trading and within the same range. And then here, after 8, we kind of pop outside of that range and then kind of hold up here above, but not quite above, but still, like, we're not down here, we're basically up here now. And were creating some structure, we're getting some, lower high here and some compression. And then my idea here is, and we had this is what I was working with here. So this VPOC here, which was kind of the level. So I saw, I think it was 70. I don't know why it's showing up there. It was 78, 25, 7, 78, the area, the level that I was sort of like, and we had like the bottom of the range here was like in the low 80s. And I was thinking, and then this thing was like grinding on the way down, and I was thinking, okay, if this thing gets close enough to this area, to the 78 area, I'm gonna be longing here for a pop, and the target would be the top of the range here, which would be in the 800s. So, potentially a 20 to 30 point opening range, and we got that pop literally into the low 800s, and then it just bam, it just flushed, and we got that, that down move. So but I got my trade, I got my long trade, and that was cool. So um it feels good when you pre-plan a trade, you build it, and then you execute and it works out. And and again, it is a scalp, which means that if I'm wrong, which I ended up being wrong, this thing didn't actually go up, it went down. But it doesn't matter. Like, at least you get that pop into the target area before you even have a chance to be right or wrong. There's no holding and hoping to see if you're right or anything. No, you get the pop, you get the 20, 30 cents, you get out, which is what I did. And it ended up not being right, and I don't care. So that is, to me, what good trading is. If you're like scalping, and you're not picking direction, you're not like married to a thesis, you're just like, I see a really small window of opportunity there, I size in, and you make your P&L there. And then after that, I did scalp off of this area here in the 730s a couple of times for pops here into the 750s. And then when it broke below that area, I captured a couple of I think maybe once or twice I caught the bounce off of the low 700s for pops here into the teens, and and that was it. And that was it. And uh, I was overwhelmed a little bit by this whole thing, and I stopped trading there. And and I'm glad I did, because if I had kept trading, then I would have, I probably would have tried to keep defending that low 700 area. This would have flushed into stop me out. So um, after what happened yesterday, I was like, this thing seems to be going in a trend and is building a trend downwards, and you're gonna be caught again in scalp mode, and you're gonna be stopped out. So, and these rectangles that I see here are the way I would have traded this, but it's not scalp mode. Is again, um, is this 5 second? Yeah. So it would be, I guess, exhaustion here, bam, and then we take out that exhaustion level, and bam, momentum. So from 60s to 30s, huge momentum move here. Exhaustion here, shallow bounce, comes back down, takes out that exhaustion level down, and then we get another move further into the low 600s. That is basically the momentum mode trading. And well, if I had stayed in and focused, I probably would have been able to capture those, because that's more in line with the way I like to trade, and this is what we've been missing in the last few days. But here we got some of that, and that's it. The rest of the day, I didn't touch anything. Um, Looks like there was a range there, but I don't even know. If I had kept trading, I would have lost everything and blown up, just like I do every day. So that's why I stopped early. Um, and then I never do this, but maybe I thought I would do this right now. Let's have a look at um, the tape on that opening drive trade. So this is 5 minutes before the open, and we're starting to see that little bit of structure here. This is the NQ, the micros, and this is the tape. And I think I don't know why I was already down like $30. Um, and and then again, I was waiting. So this is pre-market still, and okay, and I think I tried to get in. It was early. Now I'm down like $100. So um, I'm kind of waiting. There, I got in again there. So I'm kind of waiting for this to come down into this area, low 80s, basically the bottom of the range. But I know that down all the way down into like 78, 77, where this level is, this VPOC here, I want to be getting in. And the idea is that this is setting up before the open. So the closer we get entries off of that level before the open, doesn't matter if it's a few minutes before or a few seconds before, anytime it gets into this below, down into this area, I want to be loading up for that pop into basically the 800s, the 25 800s. So that's what I'm trying to do here. But again, I'm not being patient, because I'm not waiting for this to come down into this area, because I don't want to miss it, which is the equivalent of chasing. But anyways, so I got here back in here again. I have an order in 82, and it didn't really come down to this area. But I should be paying attention to the tick. So here at least I scalp in and out a few times here. I'm not sure if I took some off. It looks like I did. I think I end up taking, and then I'm left with one lot. So each lot is 5 micros. Um, and I'm waiting for it to come down again. So I built some P&L there. I was down $100, and now I'm up $40. So this thing, again, I'm waiting for it to come down, and I'm paying attention to the tape. Obviously, what I want to see is that when it comes down, I want to see that the tape accelerates a little bit, and it prints and it holds. There it comes down, but there's no acceleration in the tape, so I don't put it back on. I don't put any size back on. Um, and the reason I'm doing this, like I'm letting this go for, uh, you know, 3, 4 minutes before the open is because I know that I make a few mistakes here. Oh, I can't remember. Okay, so here I'm all out, and I should have waited for this to come down. So this is the first time it comes down there, and I hesitate, late entry. That's my first lot in, and I leave 2 orders down here because I don't want to chase with the rest of my lots, which is what happened. I ended up getting a bad entry there. I think I take it off. So I took that off, and now I'm waiting for this to come back down, and to get filled in the low 80s. I did something there that you're not supposed to do. I'm adjusting my entry level to the low 80s, knowing, and here again, it's like because I saw some printing there, then I get another bad entry at 84. And instead of waiting for this to come down, but anyways, I'm in it again with one lot. Okay, took it off. Um, I got tricked into getting in again with that little, printing on the tape. I realized it was a very bad entry, so I get out again. And now I'm worried that this thing is not going to come down to where I wanted to come down for an entry. And um, I can't remember. I think at some point I kind of like don't have the patience, and I end up. I think these 2 orders end up getting filled. Um, I end up like putting in all my size in the low 80s or something. Oh, there it is. It's like I'm not being patient. So I'm like putting that order 84. Why am I in an 84 now? Um, because in the end, this thing ends up coming down into like 78 or 77, which was the area I was hoping for. There it is. And that's where we're getting printing. We get prints there. See? So why didn't I wait to come? So right now I'm like $250 offside. And I shouldn't be because I should have waited to enter here when we are in this area and we're getting the prints there. Um, I'm not stopping out because even though those are bad entries, the trade is still working because it's holding the area that it was supposed to hold. It's holding the area where I was supposed to be getting in. So that's why I'm not stopping out. But in any event, that's where I should have been getting in. And now we are 20 seconds before the open, and we're already on side. And I'm waiting for the open because my thesis is that this thing is going to pop. And there it is. And then I put some orders there to pick it up into the 800 area. And that was it. And then it fails and it goes down. So the opening drive has to be like that. There's no real, I mean, for the first minute, 2 or 3 minutes, maybe the first minute, the tape is unreadable. It's unreadable. I don't, maybe it's like the platform doesn't process, speed in a way that you can actually discern here, accelerated. You can't. So it has to be like that off of a level, and that's it. And then you're blind for a minute or two or three. And I don't stop. I'm gonna fast forward, and I don't start putting orders until here, until it comes down. Now the tape, we can see the dynamics on the tape a little bit better. We can see how it stalls and then accelerates, and that's what's needed for me to trade off of those bursts of speed on the tape. So now I'm waiting for a dip and a clear burst of speed on the tape where it's telling me that they're soaking for me to buy and then wait for the pop. So I'm paying attention to the tape. It's still in the 750s. I'm waiting for it to like, because we've already traded below 750 a bunch of times, I think it's gonna go into the lower, into the 30s, 20s, or the low 700s, and that, okay, that's bam. See that acceleration there? That's where I should have gotten in, and I didn't. So that's the first one that I missed. We went, that was like in the mid 30s, and now bam, we're popping up to the mid 50s, 20 points. That's a missed trade. And I have to be trading against that. I'm going to pause, go back so we can see how that happened. Look at the speed of the tape. The tape is stalled. And then bam, that's where we see acceleration of the tape, not quite here. I think there. Bam, we see acceleration on the tape. We see that the tape goes like, the ladder goes crazy up and down. And then bam, we get the pop into the mid 50s. That's one trade that I could have taken. But now we sort of have a good bottom there. So the bottom is like the lowest 734. So now we're waiting for that to happen again. So now we're actually getting, we got some acceleration at the top. So I think I shorted. There it is. And I took it off before it actually goes down. So this is, oh, so now we're testing the bottom of the range. Bam, acceleration. That's why I need to be getting in. I didn't. So it's really sloppy trading. So I should have been in it from the low 30s. And again, end up entering here in the mid 40s. And I still capture a little bit of that pop, but just a little bit. But I could have captured it. There it is. Bam, into the 50s. There it is. So, but the entry, I haven't even gotten out yet. And the entry has to be right when that acceleration happens at in the lows. This short here was stupid because I did not wait for acceleration of the tape, so now I'm offside. Maybe I got lucky there and I took it off, but it's not good to be getting lucky. So now we're waiting again for this thing to give us another burst of speed on a tape that we can trade off of. It's making lower highs. I long there, but that was not quite the acceleration on the tape that I was looking for. Then I flipped short because I'm a fucking idiot, and then I have to take that off. I'm at a loss, and then I'm longing. So just like, it's, really bad trading, but it's about, it doesn't matter if the mistakes are showing. It's a matter of, I'm just trying to see what I should have done. And we see there that acceleration on the tape, and that's the moment we need to get in. And I'm just hesitating and not getting in. Here I'm getting in before the acceleration happens. And I had to wait for this. This is what I had to wait for, this acceleration. And then there I can hold it. And even if it goes against me a bit, it doesn't matter. I know it's going to come back because it's printing a lot. I think in this case, I probably got out. And I didn't wait. Well, no, I am waiting for it to come back. And this takes a lot of faith because this is, you know, just trusting that this wild printing here is actually signaling that it's the bottom. But I'm letting myself go offside a lot there, so it's insane. It's not great the way what I'm doing there. In the end, it ends up being the bottom. It's soaking a lot, and then we get the pop there into the 20s. And I take it all off. So, anyways, that's not great trading, but it's an example of how we can trade off of the tape there. So purely off of reading the speed, the dynamics on the tape, not just the ladder, and reading, reading the order flow there. All right.